In this video, we're going to cover purchasing inventory and how we make those entries. There's two ways we're going to purchase inventory. We're either going to purchase it, we're going to write a check and just buy it cash on the barrelhead, or we're going to purchase it on account and we'll pay it off at some later point. So depending on our purchasing method will depend on how we record the inventory in our QuickBooks. And so there are two things that we need to be aware of when we're recording these. The non-inventory items are going to go in as an expense, and the inventoried items are going to go in as items. And I'll go over and show you this in a second. But what you, when we talk about non-inventory items, let's say we're an auto mechanic and we've got lots of parts that we're putting in customers' cars to fix them, but we have some general supplies type things that we need to order and keep track of, and maybe a certain amount gets allocated to repairs. That's sort of a cost accounting issue at a later point. But we might need, I don't know, tubs of grease. I don't know what all you have, maybe little washers, who knows. But items that are really too small to be inventoried, but they are certainly necessary in the work that we do. So those things will get treated as an expense, whereas the more substantial items will go in under the items tab. So if we purchase our items on account, we will then we need to enter the bill so that we know to pay that vendor at whatever later point. And on the Enter Bills window, there are going to be two tabs, the Expense tab and the Items tab. And we just need to make sure that we choose the correct tab to correspond to the item that we're purchasing, whether it's inventory or non-inventory. And so if we look at this in the context of the accounting lessons that we've learned in prior semesters, we've got inventory that we know is an asset, and inventory that's purchased on account is going to impact accounts payable. Our traditional, what QuickBooks is going to do behind the scenes for us when we purchase inventory on account is it's going to debit our inventory and it's going to credit our accounts payable. So that's what QuickBooks is doing behind the scenes when we go into that Enter Bills screen when we're for the purchase of inventory. And so here is the example of the screen. You'll see here these are the two tabs, and I'll go over in a second and show you where you would be looking at expense versus items, and you want to make sure again that you're choosing the correct tab when you enter these items in here. And I'm going to just cover the write checks part of this so that when I go over to the live version, I can hit it all at the same time. So the write checks is going to be what we do when we're just purchasing it for cash and we're not worried about a bill that we're paying later. And so we're going to actually just do it in the write checks window under the banking tab on our toolbar. And you see, similarly to the Enter Bills, we have these two tabs here. We have the expense and the items. We just need to make sure that we are entering them in, within the correct tab, depending on whether it's an inventory or non-inventoried item. And with the journal entries in terms of buying things that are on cash as opposed to accounts payable looks similar to the inventory journal entries that we would have done for the items purchased on account, except that our credit is going to be to cash. We're still debiting inventory, it's still an asset, and we're still receiving it, but instead of an accounts payable here, our credit is going to be to cash to reflect the reduction in cash that we experience as a result of purchasing that item. And so you can pause this and read this if you choose to, but I'm actually going to go over and do the demonstration. So the first thing I'm going to do is do this as though we're purchasing it on an account, and this is going to be a payable type transaction. So we go into our vendor, okay, but we got there. And so we're going to, and I'm just going to choose somebody random off my list here. And because we were good little doobies, we made sure that all our vendors were entered in here before we went to actually buy something from them. And so down here, you'll see we've got expense or we have items. And within our items, we're able to make those selections. Within our expenses, everything under the sun that we can choose from. And regardless of which items these go under, we need to also make sure that the amounts between the expenses and the items add up to the full amount that we're writing the check or that we're entering the bill for. Otherwise, QuickBooks won't process it. So I'm going to not save this. And now we will briefly go into banking and do the same thing as if we're just purchasing it and writing a check for it. So we have our now write checks window, and we're going to fill this in as though, and I'm just going to do that here. And again, make sure that you choose the expense or item menu, whatever is appropriate for the entry that you happen to be doing. And I'm actually going to stop this video here, and I will start up a new video for the sales tax portion.